Remember when going out felt like such a treat? Let's take a quick trip back to the most popular restaurants of the 1980s. Do they still exist? And why did we love them so much? Ready? Applebees. Launched in 1980 in Atlanta, Georgia, the original name was T.J. Applebee's Edibles and Elixirs. Pretty different, right? It kept that fun name until 1986, when it became the Applebees we all remember. The classic neighborhood grill and bar, with its friendly slogan, "Eating good in the neighborhood." It quickly became a favorite hangout for families, couples, and co-workers. The menu offered a little bit of everything: burgers, salads, sizzling fajitas, and of course, the famous chicken wings. A dozen for just $3.95. Look at those prices. The decor brought all the 80s charm: stained glass lamps over the booths, quirky frame signs on the walls, and a cozy vibe that welcomed everyone. By the late 80s, locations were popping up everywhere. At its peak during that decade, Applebee's was becoming one of the fastest-growing casual dining chains in the U.S. It was the go-to for birthday dinners, Friday night outings, or a casual bowl of nachos after school. And who could forget the mozzarella sticks or those thick Oreo shakes? Pure comfort food. One thing's for sure. Back in the 80s, Applebee's delivered good times and affordable meals without breaking the bank. Benigans. Now that was a place you didn't forget. Started in 1976 in Atlanta, Georgia, this Irish-themed bar and grill quickly made a name for itself across the U.S. By the early 1980s, it had become a go-to spot for casual dining, after-work happy hours, and that cozy vibe with dark wood interiors, soft lighting, and servers wearing just the right amount of flair. Even though it had an Irish theme, the menu was full of American comfort food: sizzling steaks, crispy tempura shrimp, loaded nachos, and of course the Monte Cristo sandwich, deep-fried, dusted with powdered sugar, and served with raspberry jam. No one made it like Bennigan's. That's how you do a sandwich. It wasn't just the food, it was the atmosphere. By the mid-80s, it had hundreds of locations across the country. Whether it was a quick dinner with friends or a casual date night, it was always a fun choice. Then in 2008, everything changed. The company filed for bankruptcy, and many locations were closed. But the memories stayed. And yes, Bennigan's is still around in some places today, but for many of us, nothing beats those good old days. Do you miss it too? York's Steakhouse. Back in the 80s, York's Steakhouse was the kind of place you'd go for a solid, satisfying meal that didn't cost a fortune. Founded in the 1960s and later owned by General Mills, yes, the cereal company, it boomed during the late 70s and into the 80s, with over 200 locations, especially in shopping malls. The concept was simple: grab a tray, go through the cafeteria-style line, and pick your steak, salad, or dessert. You'd get hearty cuts of beef, a baked potato wrapped in foil, Texas toast, and a slice of pie if you had room left. No frills, no fuss, just straightforward steak dinners at a fair price. The atmosphere, dim lighting, dark wood panels, and that classic Western-style decor with oil paintings and wrought iron. People loved it for the good food, friendly service, and reasonable prices. For many families, it was the perfect post-mall treat. As malls declined and dining tastes shifted, York's Steakhouse slowly disappeared. Today, just one location remains, in Columbus, Ohio. But for those who remember, just the mention of it brings back memories of sizzling sirloin on the grill, making your mouth water instantly. Dennys. In the 1980s, Dennys was the ultimate go-to, whether it was for a late-night snack, an early breakfast before dawn, or a family dinner at any hour. Known as the always-open diner, it promised good food, friendly faces, and zero judgment, day or night. No one ever really planned to go. People just ended up there. Founded in 1953 in Lakewood, California, it grew quickly during the 70s and 80s into a nationwide chain. It became the place to stop when you were hungry, no matter the time. The menu? A comforting mix of pancakes, the famous Grand Slam breakfasts, juicy burgers, and creamy milkshakes, loved by both kids and parents. By the mid-'80s, Dennys was a household name with hundreds of locations across the U.S. Whether it was 3 a.m. after a road trip or a lazy Sunday morning, this beloved diner was always open. And the food? Always satisfying. It wasn't fancy, but it felt warm and reliable. For many of us who grew up in that era, it brings back memories of late-night meals after hanging out with friends, or even that very first job. I'm glad Dennys is still around. It still has that classic diner vibe. What about you? Do you have any memories there? Friendly's. Tell me, where was your Friendly's? Known for its friendly service, cozy booths, and that unforgettable clown sundae, this beloved restaurant began in 1935 in Massachusetts as a small ice cream shop and burger stand. By the 1980s, it had grown into a favorite family stop across the Northeast and Midwest. The menu was the perfect mix of comfort food and sweet treats. Juicy burgers, grilled cheese, hot fries, bottomless soup, and of course, ice cream sundaes. Kids loved the junior sundaes and friendship drinks. And if you remember the Reese's Pieces sundae with Buttercrunch ice cream, you weren't alone. It wasn't fancy, but it was always fun. For many families, it was the place for after-school snacks or Sunday dinners. Just good times every time. By the 80s, there were over 300 Friendly's restaurants across the U.S. While many have since closed, a few still remain. And that clown sundae? Just thinking about it brings back all the feelings. If you grew up in the 80s, Dunkin Donuts was part of everyday life. It started in 1950 in Massachusetts, but by the 1980s, it was everywhere, especially in the Northeast. Back then, people sat down with a hot coffee in a mug, no phones, no internet, just good conversation. Ashtrays were on the tables, and the workers were always friendly. And the donuts? Always fresh. Really the best. The ones today just aren't the same. Glazed, Boston cream, jelly-filled, and of course the munchkins everyone loved. It wasn't fancy, it didn't need to be. By the late 80s, there were about 1,000 Dunkin' stores across the U.S. Some had counters where you could sit and be served. Coffee was just 39 cents. Can you believe that? For many people, it brings back memories of early mornings and a time when donuts were actually fresh. Black Angus Steakhouse. Now that was a serious dinner out. Back in 1980, going there usually meant something special, a birthday, an anniversary, or just a family dinner that felt a bit more upscale. The first location opened in 1964 in Los Angeles, California, but by the 1980s, Black Angus had spread across the West and into other parts of the country. Remember the dim lighting and the booths that made every meal feel a bit more intimate? The menu? Steaks, of course. Big, juicy cuts cooked to order, served with baked potatoes, warm bread, and a salad bar that seemed endless. And who could forget the campfire feast? A full meal for two that felt like a banquet. By the mid-'80s, Black Angus had become one of the top steakhouse chains in the U.S., especially popular on the West Coast. It was the place your parents picked when they wanted something nice, but not too expensive. And if you had a date night there, very affordable, good food, and great atmosphere. A true classic. Old Olive Garden. Walking into an Olive Garden back then felt special. Warm, cozy, and perfect for a family night out. For many, it even felt like a fancy restaurant. And honestly, life was just simpler. The first Olive Garden opened in 1982 in Orlando, Florida, and it quickly became a favorite for birthday dinners, Sunday lunches, or even a quiet date night. The service was warm, the music was soft, the atmosphere welcoming, and the food, pure comfort. Dads wore cologne and button-up shirts for dinner out. And who could forget those warm, garlicky breadsticks? The never-ending part made them legendary. By the mid-'80s, Olive Garden had found its way into shopping centers and suburban towns. It wasn't just a meal, it was where families marked special moments. Ponderosa Steakhouse. Ponderosa was the perfect family restaurant. The food was affordable, the buffet had lots of options, and all you can eat meant nobody left hungry. It started in 1965, founded by Dan Blocker, the actor who played Hoss on the TV show Bonanza. By the 1980s, there were hundreds of locations across the country. For many families, it was the go-to spot when you wanted a full meal that didn't cost too much. In the early 90s, there were over 700 locations. Eventually, Ponderosa and its sister restaurant, Bonanza Steakhouse, became one company. The best part? The buffet. You'd grab a tray, choose your steak, maybe ribeye or chopped steak, and load up on mashed potatoes, green beans, corn, and those soft dinner rolls. Then came dessert, a soft-serve ice cream bar with chocolate syrup and sprinkles. And yes, free refills on soda. Back then, you could go to the movies and Ponderosa on a date, and still have money left over. It wasn't fancy, but it always felt like a treat. The food was hot, the plates were full, and the place just felt cozy. Whether it was for a birthday, a team win, or just a fun Friday night, Ponderosa made it special. So tell me, did your town have a Ponderosa? Hooters. It all started in 1983 in Clearwater, Florida, when 6 friends opened a beach-style bar with cold beer, loud music, and spicy wings. And somehow, it worked. With no restaurant experience, they opened the first Hooters simply because they wanted to create a fun hangout. What made it stand out? It was the full package: bold orange branding, big screen TVs playing non-stop sports, loud music, frosty mugs of beer, and of course, the famous Hooters girls, known for their bright smiles, tight white tank tops, and short orange shorts. Like it or not, they became a defining feature of the brand. The wings were the real stars. Add in the jukebox tunes and a lively crowd, and it felt like the kind of place where every night was a Friday night. Back in the 80s, it was something. You walked in, heard the jukebox, saw the glowing stained glass lamps, and knew you were in for a night of fun, whether you came for the wings, the games, or the atmosphere. Hooters made an impression you never forgot. And before you head off to our next video, tell me this. What did you love most about restaurants in the 80s?